Thank you, Susanna. Isn't she wonderful? That's the energy that she brings. If you haven't heard her podcast, it's called Basement Tapes. It's on Epostle. You got to hear her doing the podcast and interviewing people just like from all over the world. And that same energy is there. Anyway, thank you, Susanna. And you'll be getting a lot more of her. And thank you, all of you, for being here. And all of you here today, thank you so much for making the Reclaim Conference. I'm thankful to him because he's been pushing us to do it. Because as we go through, when we started this 9 years ago, it was a big undertaking. And I'm happy to see a few people that have been here through the whole 9 years, not only as participants, but also as people who have presented in the past. So thank you all for coming. And thank you, Sirpazan, for making this really a priority item on your agenda. I appreciate it. I want to just introduce the clergy that we have. You met Father Mardiros. He's come from the Armenian seminary in a town called Armonk, which is not a made-up name. Armenian monk is not what it means. It's actually Armonk, and it is on the East Coast, but many of our students study there, and he's with us today. If you have any questions about what's going on at the seminary, please approach him. Of course, my dear friend, Father Manug is with us. I'm glad he's with us. And his blessings are always important to us. And Father Mesrob, you'll meet in a few minutes. He's all the way from San Francisco this morning, and thank you, Dad, for making the trip. And actually, between Sirpazan, Ded Manuk, and Ded Madiros, and myself, we could do a reunion too. We were in Echmiadzin as students, and it's really neat to see everybody here today. So I want to share with you what we're going to be doing today, and we'll get you started with our first speaker. But before I do that, I hope that today it will be an opportunity for you to really think about how we're being influenced by some of the big issues and about the money that's going into influencing us many times. We call this Reclaim, and it's important that we remember this story, and I'd like to share it with you. It's on your program if you get a chance. It's at the back. Please read it later. You don't need to open it now. But it says, not lost, just reclaimed. The whole idea of reclaim is something that you've had, that you've forgotten about, and then reclaiming. And there's a really neat Bible story that's exactly this story. So Joseph and Mary have Jesus with them, and he's 12 years old. And they make their way back to Bethlehem. And then one day into the trip, they realize he's not with them. And so they say, where's Jesus? Now, if this was 2025, you would call Child Protective Services. You'd say, hey, what's wrong with you guys? Why don't you know? But in those times, people traveled in caravans. And so the parents would be in one group, the children would be in another group. So it was very typical that at the end of the day, you looked around and where's your child? He's not with us. So the Bible says that Joseph and Mary went back to Jerusalem to find Jesus, and he was in the temple. He says, didn't you know I would be in my Father's house? And this is really what reclaim is. Something that we haven't lost, but we've kind of like left way back there. And we need to take a turn back. That's what every year we try to do. Come back and say, what did we leave? For instance, we as the Armenian Church, the oldest Christian nation in the world, we're technically the OG Christianity. It doesn't get any older than us. And yet, when we talk about what is Christianity, we're always at the mercy of people saying, this is who you are, this is what we are. No, we have a unique set of givens that we need to share. In this world today, it's important that we identify what that is. When I used to teach junior high at Movsesian, when I was there for 6 years, every year that we'd start our junior high class, religion, I challenged them to think about something. I want to share this with you because it was really interesting for me. I wanted the kids to not just take things for granted. Like, for instance, we say in our church, truth is a person. I am the way, the truth, and the life, says Jesus. It's not a concept, it's a person, Jesus. Now, what does that mean? We say it, and you know, familiarity breeds contempt. We say it almost like a slogan, but what does that mean, Jesus is the truth? And I challenge my kids to think about that. And I tell them, and back in those times, there used to be a thing called the newspaper. And we'd bring out the newspaper, and I'd show them, I'd say, what would you do today if your parents were looking through the newspaper and they saw an article that at McDonald's, somebody bit into a hamburger and inside was, I'm sorry, but I had to be very shocking with them. What if there was a rodent in there, you know? And they'd go, and I'd say, what would you do? And they said, well, we would never eat there again. I hate McDonald's, I won't eat there. And then I'd challenge them, I'd say, what if you went down at the bottom of the article and you saw that the article was written by a guy named J. Box? And then they think for a minute, they start laughing. Jack in the Box! I'd say, would that make a difference? And they said, yeah. And I'd get them to think. If Jack in the Box wrote that article, it doesn't have credibility, right? Because it's the main competitor is McDonald's. In many of our things too, we are influenced without taking that moment to think about why are these things coming to us? For instance, if you remember the old sitcoms, you'd watch these shows and then all of a sudden people would laugh. They weren't funny. I mean, the last time you laughed at something like that, you were in elementary school. You know, it was like the man flushing the toilet. It's not funny. But the laugh track is on there to catch you to think. So there's some producer out there that's saying, laugh at this or applaud at this. If you watch late night television and you see these people that are speaking on there, you see they come out on stage and everybody, Steve Colbert, Jim Kimmel, everybody's clapping, but you hear people going, ooh, yelling. Look at the audience next time. There's nobody yelling. There's nobody going, oh, you know, they're just clapping. So who's doing that? Well, obviously, they're adding some things to tell you this is popular. This is important right now. And this is very big business right now. Just a few weeks ago, Super Bowl commercial was $7 million for every half a minute of commercial. So you have to think, how many cans of Coke do they have to sell to get that 7 million back? How many cans of beer? How many bags of potato chips do they have to sell? Quite a bit. But they know that calculation, and it's worth it to them because they know who you are. And that's where we enter the AI world. It's called big data, getting all that data and knowing who we are. Our speakers today are going to tell you about a lot of this. They're going to be telling you what we can do with AI, the good and the bad. If you remember last year, there was a movie called Oppenheimer about the atomic bomb. You know, we dropped it on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, America did. And there was 200,000 people that were incinerated at one time. And everybody says, oh, we did good, we won the war. But 200,000 people were incinerated instantly, you know? So is that good or bad? Well, when you compare it with what Hitler was doing, and there was 12 million people throughout the entire Europe being killed, there's 12 million people, they say, during World War II were killed. Well, it brought the end to a war. Now, I'm not telling you this is good or bad, but as people, we have what's called ethics. What is ethical? What can you do? There's always going to be good and bad, and that's what we try to do today, looking at AI and looking at what are the good and bad things. When AI first came out, I was intrigued by it, and the night I remember, I'll never forget that night because I didn't sleep, I got so excited. I went online and I tried AI out, and I said, AI, tell me what would happen if Avvediki Sahakian, who was a famous Armenian writer, poet, met William Saroyan. Would they talk? What would they talk about? Would you believe pages and pages and pages of dialogue between Avvediki Sahakian and William Saroyan? I'm going, wow. And then I thought, what would a song sound like if we brought Sayat Nova with let's say with Gomidas Vartabet. Two people from two different centuries. What would the music be like? And it gave me some samples. Wow. It's taking everything it knows about Gomidas, it takes everything it knows about Sayat-Nova, it puts it together, gives you samples. Now, that song, you say, well, that's not Sayat-Nova, it's not Gomidas, what is it? You say it's not real because they were both dead. How could they participate? Do you know what the song that won last year's Grammy Award? Best Rock Performance Grammy Award. It was called Now and Then by a group called the Beatles. Beatles finished in 1970. 55 years ago, Beatles ended their career. 55 years later, there is a new song that wins a Grammy. Half of the members of the Beatles are dead. So is that a Beatles song? Well, it was. It won it. So these are the questions that we have to look at today. It's like, what is real? What is not real? What are we taking for granted? A few years ago, we were on a small little trip to Armenia, and there at Khorvirab, I'm sure many of you have been to Khorvirab, there was a group of Korean tourists. They come from Korea, where there's a lot of evangelical Christians. And they were talking, and their tour guide was a young Armenian girl. She spoke beautiful English. She was beautiful. I mean, I was listening to her without an accent. She was talking English. And I went up to her and I said, Kurik and everything. She was from Yerevan. I was so impressed. But she was talking to the Koreans in English. Their primary language was Korean. Hers was Armenian. And so they were talking in English together. And she said, well, why can't we talk to them in Korean? And so at Epostle, what we did is we started taking our videos of Echmiadze and Khorvirab, and we translated them to Korean. Then we did to English. Then we did to Japanese. And we sent it out. And people in Korea who are going now to Hayastan watch these videos and are hearing it in their language. And you might say, well, you don't look Korean. I don't look. And you might say, you're not, but you know what? We did one in Spanish. And my cousins from Buenos Aires called me and says, like, how did you learn Spanish? But we did it, you know. We did it in Russian. And I think one of our speakers today says, yeah, that's fantastic. It's perfect Russian. I can't speak the language, but AI has now gotten to that point where we can bring our message everywhere. But in all of that, when early computing, and my friends who are in early computing know that there was an expression, garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage inside, it'll only give you garbage out. So it's the programmer. Right now, it's the programmer who has to program it. It's going to come to a time where it'll program itself. Take a look at this picture on your cover. That was AI generated, those fingers. And you say, how beautiful, right? Except that there's only 4 fingers. So the instruction was, I told the AI, I said, give me a hand. And it gave me a hand with 4 fingers. And I was going to reject it, and I said, no, let me put it on the cover, and there it is. Now, with all due respect, you know, the people with less digits, but this is it. It's like, if you don't do it right, AI is not at that point where it's at perfection. The speakers that we have today are going to be dealing with many, many issues. Today, our first speaker is going to be George Stepanians. He'll be talking about how to master AI, artificial intelligence, without losing your intelligence. He's a deacon of the Armenian Church. He comes from Washington State, and he's now serving in Pasadena at the church there. He's at Caltech, very, very happy that he accepted this invitation. He's a fellow at Caltech, and we're excited to hear him speak. Following him, Father Mesro Ash from San Francisco will be talking In What Image, Faith, Truth, Identity Amidst the Rise of AI. Father Mesro, long being a priest, he's so technically inclined that this morning when we had issues right here, IP addresses, they said, who should we talk to? And then he walked in right at the time. He's somebody who has incorporated technology with the ministry from the beginning. And I'm very excited. Thank you very much for accepting the offer to be here today. After lunch, we're going to break for lunch, and we have this incredible lunch by the Circle of Faith. And Circle of Faith, I have to say, Heidi, please, take a stand. This lady, she said, I said, and next to her is Alice, also from Circle, all the Circle of Faith. All of you, stand up. You know what's so nice about them? They're all good Armenian mothers. And they said, they said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. So we will have lunch today. Thank you very much, ladies, for offering to do this. And it's not only this year, every year that they hear about Reclaim, and they are here ready to do it. After lunch, we're going to have the Divine Spark, Greg Bailarian. He's someone that we have collaborated on several projects since, I would say, 2005, almost maybe 20, 25 years. We've done projects together, and Greg's in the back. He always takes a low key over there, but you will love to hear his comments as he talks about the Divine Spark, creativity, and AI, and your journey, your soul's journey. Following that, we have Good AI, Better Understand Subjective Reality. And that's Garavid Magardichan. He's a PhD candidate at UC Riverside. He's also a deacon in the church. He serves at St. Gregory. I was impressed that day that I asked George. I had a Garavid there. And so together, between the two of you, the brain activity in Pasadena is major. So, and thank you for accepting this invitation. And finally, the end will be Harach Chilingirian. He is the director of the Innovative Institute here at the Western Diocese. What Sarpazan has tried to do is have a format by which the work that we do right now can last, will continue beyond us into the generations to come. Harach Chilingirian is a scholar, somebody who has dabbled with technology for the last at least 3 decades that I know. And I'm very happy that he's going to accept. He's in another call right now. He'll be here in just a couple moments. So with that, we begin to Reclaim. I want to thank you again for all being here. As Susanna told you, anybody with one of these tags, if you have any problems, any concerns, please see them. They're wonderful people, and they'll be happy to take care of you. So right now, with that, I'm happy to invite George Stepaniak.